Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the state of affairs in Britain, or the political state of affairs, I should say, in Britain at the moment. Now, the word around is that the current Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who is, in my view, comprehensively unqualified for the job, but anyway, she's there, and then she's surrounded by people who are similarly, if not unqualified for the job, have been given the job over many, many better qualified people. So now it would seem at the moment that if Liz Truss is removed by a cabal in the Conservative Party in Britain, who are controlled by the globalists, that will get an Indian prime minister, an unelected Indian prime minister. Now, let's say, for example, that Rishi Sunak is one of the prime, if not the prime or leading candidate for that. Now, he's supposed to have a lot of support inside the party. Goodness knows why. I mean, he's not even British, for goodness sakes. His wife is an Indian billionaire, or her family are billionaires. Rishi's never had to do anything in his life, never had to do any heavy lifting, never had to make decisions for which he's responsible. Everything's sort of really landed on him and been given to him. I can't see he's been tested. I can't see he's proven anything. As far as I can tell, he's achieved nothing other than being, picked up by the Conservative Party machine, which was controlled by the globalists. Picked up, he was a nice sort of token brown boy, and they brought him in, and now he's politically useful to the globalists as a prime minister. Now he's, maybe he's a competent manager. If he is, then he's got no track record or indication of it. He's got that private school, British private school type manner about him. Maybe that's something to be said. I don't know, but he's a US citizen. His family, going back, I think they've been out of India for a few generations, around Africa and so on. So I don't know if he's got any loyalty to anywhere. You'd think that a British prime minister, the head of fucking government, for goodness sakes, you think the British prime minister would be British. I don't want to put too fine a point on this, but you'd think. So you'd think they'd be born in Britain, and you think they would have deep roots in Britain where, at the very least, at the absolute minimum, their great-grandparents were born in and were British. So you'd think. Now, to find someone that thought and cared about, thought deeply about and cared about Britain, cared about the people, then it was sort of taken for granted, really. There wasn't any sort of dispute. If you look from the for when there was first a prime minister, Walpole, going back to those days, and around that time, I don't think you could find anyone that didn't have long roots in Britain, certainly in the senior, things like the prime ministership or the senior ministries. Now, if you look around hard enough, you can find exceptions, but some people point to, well, the British Crown was offered to people that weren't British or English, and in the case of succession and the possible wars or disputes over succession, the Parliament took the view that the Crown should be offered to a Protestant rather than a Catholic. And because there are only a few Protestants around, a few areas in Germany, Holland, for example, that there was, William of Orange came from Holland, and George, I think it was the first, was the Elector of Hanover. So, and there's been this Protestant German sort of Nordic connection to the British Crown for quite some time. So there's some arguments there about, well, they weren't British born, but they had very limited power, and they were controlled quite clearly by the Parliament. In fact, William of Orange had to effectively accept that he was a ceremonial monarch. Well, not completely ceremonial. There were some powers, but largely was a ceremonial monarch before the Parliament would agree that he could have the British crown. So, but nonetheless, coming back to now, Liz Truss became Prime Minister. I think she had it in her head that as Prime Minister, she could actually make some independent decisions, in consultation with cabinet colleagues and that sort of thing. She could make independent decisions, that the government of Britain was sovereign. The government decided what the policies they will and won't pursue, how to implement them, and will measure their benefit or non-benefit as the case may be. But the government of Britain was a sovereign entity. No one else was going to, no World Economic Forum or no Klaus Schwab or some big multinational bank was going to tell the elected representatives of the people what to do. Now, or what they could and couldn't do. Now, I think Liz got it in her head she had some power that in reality she didn't have. The globalists installed her, or provided the mechanism to install her, and they want someone who's going to do what the globalists want them to do. Now, I think Liz was sticking to some of the script. This is my guess only. I think Liz was sticking to some of the script, but wanted to go off script for a few other things, and some of the U-turns, some of the earlier U-turns she did, I think was she was trying to horse trade with the globalists. Well, okay, all right then. Well, I'll give you the mass migration, but let me do this, that sort of thing. And they went, no, Liz, you do what the fuck we tell you to do. You don't make decisions. You implement the program we tell you to fucking implement. All right, that's it. That's why we've surrounded you with black and brown non-entities, just to make it, dress it up and make it look good. You don't think we want decision makers in here, Liz? I mean, Liz, what, are you? I can't believe you're this naive, Liz. We're in charge here. We're in charge. We decide, the globalists. You don't decide shit. And if you won't do what we tell you to do, you'll be out of number 10 the minute we decide you're gone. And I think it's something along those lines. So really, whoever's going to be the next Prime Minister is, and it'll be installed by a parliamentary vote, I suspect. It'll be all set up like, for example, Rishi Sunak will say he's standing for the Prime Ministership. There'll be no one who'll oppose him. They go, oh, well, no one opposed him. No one else wanted the job, so we'll have to give it to. I think they'll set it up something along those lines, and he'll go in and he'll be their boy, and he'll be implementing, the Green New Deal. He'll be ramping up the immigration. He'll be, on his knees gobbling all the illegal aliens that arrive, and doubling them. Quiet conversations with the French to say, just let a few more boats of illegals come over. That's okay with us. We're good to go on that one. And I think it'll be along those lines. Taxes will be increased, government services will be decreased to all the white people. All the black and brown people will still have government services. They'll still be staying in hotels and getting all their food supplied and all that sort of thing. There'll be a move back towards the European Union. They won't call it that. They'll call it something else. And but in effect, it'll be an approximation of the arrangement that was with the EU earlier on. So I think all that's going to happen. It'll be they'll ramp up things like the laws that if you misgender someone, you go to prison and that sort of thing. But if you're a black person looting a shop, you'll get 12 months good behaviour bond and a slap on the wrist. I think it'll just Rishi will be there, or any brown or black person they put in there will be there to pursue and increase and ramp up the globalist project, implementing that'll be the sole purpose that they're there for. And India is a very big player in. India likes the globalization project because part of the deal is they get a lot of Western jobs get brought to India. Whether it be call centers or software development or something like that, and the Indians can get rid of people they don't want and send them to the West and demand that white Western countries take in gazillions of Indians. Remember, there's more Indians in the world than there are white, but just the subcontinent of India alone has many more people than the entire white population of the planet. So, I mean, if anyone's under any illusion about white people going to be replaced, and by the way, Indians don't integrate or mix. I mean, you'd be hard. Yeah, some Christian Indians do. Not very many of them, but the Hindus and the others, non-Christians, their integration into the West is about less than 1%. In fact, less than even 0.5%, and they're very determined to stay genetically pure and keep within there. So, given the rate of immigration to all Western countries, Indians and Indian nationalist newspapers say, look, very soon in Australia, we will be in the majority and we will decide what happens. And when you've got an Indian prime minister in Britain who isn't even British, then you know that the white countries are falling like dominoes. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.